recap as well so that you got it?
We are all set and recording.
Okay, great. So again, just a quick recap of what I was saying earlier. Digital intensity is increasing. Every company and every government, every industry on the planet is increasing its digitization and its digitalization, right? What that is then necessitating is the way in which we are working and operating out there, and the way, what people are looking to hire for and hiring managers are looking for are people, students that are coming in, or even experienced hires and people that are coming and joining organizations that bring a certain mindset as well as skill set to the jobs that they're coming in. And there's a tremendous amount of training. You'll hear the terms upskilling and reskilling as well for employees that are already part of organizations. Companies like HP are investing a tremendous amount of time, money, effort, and resources to upskill and reskill our teams, because what we're hearing is at least 75, 76% of employees lack confidence in these new ways of working because things are changing so rapidly out there, right? And as I've been thinking about, well, what are these new ways of working that are critical for the work of the future? I've kind of categorized it into 5 key areas that I'll talk to you about. My other point of view and opinion around this, and you guys can tell me whether you agree or disagree, or maybe it's on a spectrum of adoption, right, or availability, is that the education curriculum within higher ed institutions today is lagging behind what the industry actually needs. So new people that are coming and joining, brands like HP and companies like us, actually what we see is it's necessary in order for you to have a leg up now to understand these shifts in dynamics, and also then bring a certain level of these skills and skill set and both mindset into the world of work. And that's why we created the Future of Work Academy, and we piloted it last year. We had about 350 students participate in the event that we ran. And this year it would be amazing if we can get to up to 1,000 students or more. And again, even then, we're just sort of scratching the surface with the opportunity that exists, right? So what are companies looking for, right? We want to deliver better and world-class, and as quickly as possible as well, world-class customer, partner, and employee experiences. The demands for what customers are now looking for is accelerating, and world-class experiences is accelerating pretty rapidly. We want to be able to deliver products and services to market with greater velocity and greater delivery consistency. With this shift that you're seeing of digitization and digitalization, there are many, many projects that are going on in there that require a new set of skills in the way teams are connecting and collaborating. You're no longer working within a finance organization or in a marketing organization or in HR and operating in silos. There might be certain projects that are function specific, but there are many projects that are happening around digitization that are happening cross-functional teams. So the way in which you work and the skills that are required and the way you collaborate across the organization, and not just collaborate within a country, you could be collaborating with people all around the world. That's also changing pretty rapidly, right? Then we're thinking about breakthrough productivity, because the single most resource that we have the least amount of is actually our time. And so if our teams and our people are spending time on innovating, on creating, on solving real world problems and doing less manual work that's out there, that's where the breakthrough productivity and the application of adoption in the knowledge workforce environment is actually happening. I kind of talked about digital collaboration, right, and real-time collaboration. So the tools for the job are also changing pretty rapidly. We're spending a lot of time in conference calls, but we want to spend less time giving updates to one another and more time in workshops. And how do you then facilitate a couple of things, right? Collaborating on the projects, running of workshops, building your pipeline of opportunities, prioritizing the things you need to do, building your ideas and ideation funnel of, let's say we want to have breakthrough productivity in our team. Well, what are the problems we're going to go solve for? Who are the best people to go solve for that problem? How do we build our pipeline of ideas and prioritize this pipeline of ideas. So there are different tools out there that help kind of facilitate this collaboration work. And then, of course, again, HP is an 82-year-old company. MetLife is one of the companies that I was talking to and learning from their experiences. They're a 150-year-old company. Many companies have lots of legacy systems and legacy processes in the ways in which they're operating. And digitization, again, requires us, and digitalization requires us to rethink how those processes are being run today. And before you digitize, you want to optimize, you want to improve, you want to replace what's actually in place, because you've done something for 50 years doesn't mean it's going to hold weight and going to continue. That way of doing things is going to continue to hold weight as you move forward as well, right? So that's the first thing to understand, is what are the outcomes that we're expecting. And then you think about the skill set and the competencies that are required. So I've just given you a sample and a flavor of some of those competencies. So things like customer centricity is developed through design thinking and user experience and UI. Business agility and velocity, well, there are more efficient ways of operating, more effective ways of operating. So one is developing a growth mindset, applying agile ways of working and thinking in agile ways, rather than, hey, I've got to deliver a massive project over a 2-year or 3-year cycle, and really starting to shift and saying, how can I deliver value to a company or a customer incrementally and iteratively, maybe in 2-week or 4-week sprints? So the kind of language and the way in which teams are getting organized is changing, again, very quickly. I talked about automation. So we are working and partnering with, for example, Microsoft and UiPath, that have actually built and have tools available like UiPath Studio X and Microsoft Power Automate that help our business user community think about their own day-to-day work and apply automation to their own day-to-day jobs. So you're not actually replacing your job. What you're doing is saying, if I'm spending 60 hours a week working or 40 hours a week working, how much of the work that I'm doing is manual, repetitive in nature, and can be and should be automated, and that I have the skills, tools, and knowledge and know-how to be able to do this myself, or to work in a small team and to be able to do this for ourselves. So we're seeing the rise of citizen developers. That's a new term that you'll hear about. And then we talked about real-time digital collaboration. So tools like Miro, Microsoft Azure DevOps, Jira Agile, UiPath Automation Hub. These are all tools that we are investing in to enable real-time digital collaboration to happen. And then, like I talked about, this mindset and skill and discipline around lean thinking, right? So major shifts that are happening all across the board. Let me pause there and see if there's questions that you guys would want to ask about this, what I've just shared. How many of you, can I just get a show of hands for the things I'm talking about? Just give me a thumbs up if your school curriculum is actually covering some or all or many of these areas. I just want to get a sense check from you. Is my hypothesis correct that curriculum is not keeping pace with the needs of the industry? Do I see any thumbs up?
I don't see any thumbs up, but I see a very correct in the chat.
Okay.
You are correct.
Yeah, feel free to put your comments in here as well, because these are the trends, again, like I said, I've been observing, seeing, listening, learning, and understanding from not only what's happening at HP, but also what's happening within our education environment. And this is a big miss, I think, as far as institutions go. So +1, +1, +1,000, whatever, like just send us those signals, because it reinforces why we're doing what we're doing with the Future of Work Academy. So I see a couple of yeses or corrects in terms of hypothesis. Well, that's good to hear. And again, feel free to send us your input, right? Are you able to see my screen still?
Yep.
Okay. Now, what this world of work is also creating is something you'll hear about called VUCA. And, you know, with not only just COVID, with the crisis that's happening in Ukraine right now, and obviously digitization, the world of work as we know it is also shifting pretty dramatically into a world that's known as VUCA. There's a tremendous amount of volatility, tremendous amount of uncertainty, huge amounts of complexity in the world of work, as well as a lot of ambiguity. So the skill set, again, that's required, and you know, what do we mean by VUCA? VUCA, you know, so volatility is all about the speed, and the speed at which we are now operating has accelerated and will continue to accelerate. Us keeping up to date with our skills, us keeping up to date with the major trends that are going on, what business requirements are, and where agility kind of fits in is to address an agile mindset and a growth mindset really helps and allows you to fit into this world of work that you're about to step into or will step into, you know, in the next couple of years. The second thing is around uncertainty, right? No one really has a crystal ball. Every business leader out there is trying to figure out how do we manage our businesses. Our, you know, managers are looking at how do we support our employees, and employees are thinking about how do I manage my own work, because you know what we used to think about stability in terms of trends or patterns or dynamics, they're really difficult to establish. And again, I think COVID was a force multiplier, created a tremendous amount of uncertainty, not just in a country or in a market, but pretty much around the world. And companies are and countries are still struggling with this, right? China just announced that they're shutting down Shanghai or putting it in lockdown because of the spread of the virus, right? They had another city with 14 million people that's just gone on lockdown as well. And these are major, major disruptive trends that individuals, employees, companies, and governments need to deal with, right? Again, as I was explaining earlier, a tremendous amount of complexity in the systems that we have, in the infrastructure that we have, in the operating environment that we're working in, and it's only going to continue to increase as well, and it gets harder and harder to manage. There's a lot of ambiguity, right? So what we are looking for, and what, you know, our skills that we continue to develop our own skills is, how do we navigate in an environment that's as ambiguous and as uncertain as we know it? And it's making it really hard to decide, what do we do and how do we work together to kind of create better outcomes as a team? So that's why agile ways of working, scaled agile framework, real-time digital collaboration, having your customers at the heart of your whatever it is you're building and designing journey, you know, developing things iteratively and incrementally. Those principles are all being brought into the world of work precisely because of this environment that we're all operating within. And no one is safe or protected from this. We are all in this situation together, no matter how senior you are in an organization or if you're just entering this world of work. So what VUCA then also requires is new sets of skills that you need to be thinking about and developing and learning about and investing in as you move forward. So I talked about customer centricity earlier, delivering with speed and quality. It's not an either or, both are important. Being flexible with what you're delivering, having not just, you know, and having a good breadth of understanding of the macro trends of what's happening, and then your own self-awareness, right? I think your own mindset, your own attitude, what your strengths are, how do you build a, you know, allies and coalition around you to be successful, what skill areas you want to invest in and develop, by all of you actually taking an interest in something like the Campus Ambassador Program and Future of Work Academy demonstrates to us that you are paying attention to what's going on and that you're willing to volunteer and learn and get a leg up and a head start to the world of work that you're about to enter as well, right? And we hope to be able to support your learning journeys over the next couple of months, you know, through the course of this year, with the support and investment in energy and commitment that we're providing precisely for these reasons, right? So I have one slide in here that's a sort of a summary, right? And again, happy to answer questions. So if you think about your own technical skills, the things to think about are learning about design thinking, because that's putting the customer at the heart of the problems you're trying to solve. Developing and adopting agile ways of working, learning about what a Scrum is, what a Kanban is. And again, through the Future of Work Academy, you start getting exposure to these things. And how do you apply these principles or these tools into your day-to-day job? Understanding, you don't have to be technical to really understand digital transformation or automation and what's happening out there, but being aware of the trends, understanding the basic tools that are out there will actually give you a leg up. When you get stuck in situations, ask yourself the question, and this is such a nugget of wisdom that I learned when I was at Microsoft, which is there'll be, because of this ambiguous, volatile, uncertain, and complex environment that we're in, stop and ask yourself the question, what problem are we trying to solve, right? Learning and being able to tell stories with data, so similar to what I've just done with you guys, to set the context, to talk about what's actually happening, critical skill for success. And depending on the technical disciplines that you're developing, those are also necessary and important, right? So whether it's engineering, whether it's computer science, whether it's marketing, it's human resources, it's social impact, it doesn't really matter. That's kind of a given. It's expected that you'll have the functional experience and expertise, or you will learn and develop that in your jobs. But the other operating environment that you're in is all about where future of work is going, right? The second area that I think about is sort of your ways of being. So are you being ambition-led or are you being condition-led? And this is something we talk about at HP quite a lot, right? Our conditions are kind of what we are given, whether it's headcount, whether it's the resources that we have, whether it's the amount of budget that we have, whether it's the skills on our team. That's sort of, if I just focus on that, then I'm sort of being condition-led and I'm being constrained by what I've been given or what I have, versus ambition-led, which is what do I actually want to create? And then rallying people in the organization to be able to help us support that ambition, that mission and vision that we're looking at, right? So Future of Work Academy, for example, when Tunde and I started this, it was, first of all, it was something that I was brainstorming on with one of our team leaders in the education team. And we're like, okay, this is something we want to do for our HBCU community, but how are we going to go about doing it? So it started with an ambition, and then it's evolved into something that's far more exciting and has, much broader reach. And we again hope to grow and scale that next year. Your ways of being, like collaborating and innovating, are really important. Growth mindset is critical. So it's easy for us to get stuck with what we know. And also then, thinking that we need to know it all. And again, in the VUCA world, the shift now needs to move into, I have the capacity to learn, and I'm going to move into this learn it all mode versus I need to know it all, right? And having people and teams around you that can support what is it that you're trying to accomplish as well. As leaders and as people that are going to be leaders in the future of work moving forward, leading with empathy is absolutely key. If you're going through these changes and disruption yourself, imagine what your people are going through, and having to guide your teams through this change with empathy is absolutely critical. Not everybody is at the same place and space or skills or even understanding what's going on. And it's really important to bring people along on the journey, right? That brings me to my third area, which is really around, again, as you're thinking about where you are today in your journey, and as you think about, I wish these are things that people would have said to me, 20 years ago. I've kind of learned these things through the hard way over the last sort of 20, 25 years of my career. But your personal and professional growth is important. And what contributes a lot to that is your relationships that you're building, the networks that you're building at school, outside of school, through your, hobbies, through your interests, through volunteer work. And these networks will hold you in good stead, over the course of time. The second thing is to, as you're taking on work, right, and stepping into the world of work, it's also equally important to showcase your body of work. And that means, like, I've taken on a certain project, and I'm going to write a LinkedIn article. I'm going to contribute to a podcast. I'm going to write a blog post or something that showcases the problem that you took on, the challenge you took on, and what you learned from it, and what was the kind of impact that you had. And there is no better platform out there today that allows you in a very easy way to showcase your body of work than LinkedIn. It's tremendous for your network, and it's a tremendous asset to master and to learn and to master for showcasing your body of work. And then the last piece in here, which I'll talk about today, is something that I'm deeply passionate about and want to continue to invest and build my career around. But it's, what are your guiding principles? What are the things that are going to hold you in good stead, and the values that you want to align your work with? And you'll find yourself in situations where what you want to do and what you value may not necessarily align with the team, the organization that you are part of today. And you will encounter conflict. It's really important to come back to your core values. In my case, what I think about when in doubt is doing well. But before I do that, it's like, am I doing good in the world as well? And with that, it comes with diversity, equity, inclusion, creating digital equity, developing things that have sustainable and social impact. So even with the digital practices role that I have right now, it's focusing on HP employees, but it's really helping people do their jobs better and do their jobs better at scale. And so how do we enable that, right? So I've somehow found a way, or like when I get stuck, I try and come back to some of these core principles to say, how am I advancing in my own development in these areas? Where am I doing well? Where am I falling short? And you'll have these signals, and you'll develop these sort of muscle for yourself over time as you embark in your own journeys in your careers, right? So I hope these things were really helpful in like the last, over the last 20 or 30 minutes that I've covered. But of course, I can talk a lot more. I hope that this was a good starting point for all of you and perspective.
Yeah, I think that was excellent. And we're nowhere already over, but before we go, you kind of covered this a little bit, but we have a question in the chat about how can you make sure that you're continuously growing and learning in the right direction?
Great question. So the way I think about this, right? So I think the first thing is to figure out for yourself, what is the direction that you want to chart for yourself? And my direction as well has evolved with every stage and phase of my career. I started my career in technical sales in the IT industry because the first thing I wanted to do was get a job right out of school. So I sort of fell into a management training and a management development program. I learned on the job. I was like, okay, my technical skills at university prepared me for the basics of working in the IT industry, but didn't really prepare me for what the job entailed. So a lot of your learning, I probably say 78 to 80% of your learning is actually going to come from on the job. And from the job, you're going to start learning about what works for me and what doesn't. While you're at school, I think it's fantastic that you can learn through projects that you take on, and take on a variety of projects, go work in different industries, put yourself in different situations like you guys are doing, to start giving you exposure to these things, because it's only through trial and error that you will learn. Now, as I've evolved my career, right, I've gone from technical sales, did that for about 4 or 5 years, and looked at delivering technical solutions to customers around digitization, etc. I then shifted into the world of marketing for about 10 years, took a pause and said, okay, what's actually happening in the world of marketing? Do I want to continue on this journey, or where's the world of work going, and how do I want to evolve my skills? I then shifted my career into social media and online communities because I could see and learn and understand and appreciate the way customers now want to engage with one another and how people are connecting with one another is through online medium and online channels and social media. So then I evolved my career into that. And then over the last 4 or 5 years, I've been thinking about where's the world of work going and what does the future of work look like? So I created a shift for myself again to look at automation, because I'm like, this is one of the greatest and biggest disruptors in the world of work that's happening. And over the last 3 or 4 months, I've taken an even broader perspective from automation into these digital ways of working, like that I was talking about, right? So I think you will continue to calibrate for yourself, and through the process of experimentation, figure out what's working for me and what's not, both from a values perspective, as well as the skills and experiences that you want to develop and deliver over time. So it was a long answer, Jade, but I hope that answers your question.
Hopefully it did. And I think I have one more question for you, Kriti, before we let
Yeah.
you go. Um, as you mentioned, right? Some of the students on here, their institutions aren't necessarily equipping them with all the skills for the future of work, and obviously, the Future of Work Academy and them serving as ambassadors is going to help kind of build a bridge between some of that knowledge. But for you, as the individual leading out digital practices for a Fortune 100 company, what is a resource you use to continuously upskill yourself outside of HP, right? Is there like a blog you always read? Is there a certain newsletter that you get information from? Something these students can access outside of FOA to help them stay abreast as to what the future of work looks like.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, LinkedIn is a fabulous resource. So start following people in the areas of work that you're interested in through Twitter, through LinkedIn, and through, just even running research. So even, for example, this Salesforce Digital Skills Index that I came across, right? I've set up a Google alert that says, these are the things I'm interested in, and I get a daily alert from Google on the topics of interest that I have. So whether it's individuals, whether it's blogs, so it's much more topic centric, and the topics then will lead you to the people that we would consider sort of thought leaders in this space. So that's usually the process that I've used over time to then build sort of my list of people on areas of interest that I'm following now moving forward. And again, like I said, a lot of the learning also happens through the job. And you'll find, like, as you're taking on a particular area of work, there will be many people out there that are looking at similar things that you can learn from and also contribute to as you move forward. So this is a continuous and iterative process. This is here to stay, this way of working. And again, 20, 25 years ago, when I started my career, there was no LinkedIn. There weren't any of these little, assets or online learning resources. Nothing was available to the power of what's available today is actually really quite incredible. The choices are endless.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that feedback, Kriti, and thank you so much for the whole session. It's definitely been very informative. Just to end the session, I just want everybody to know that everything he's talking about is the exact reason that she mentioned why we started FOA and why we know that there are thousands and thousands of open jobs in the tech space right now that yourselves and your fellow HBCU students can fill as long as you're equipped with the skill sets Kriti is talking about, right? All of the technical and non-technical skill sets that she's talking about. So we definitely look forward to engaging with you in as we go on in this Future Work Academy Campus Ambassador Program. But I just see Kriti posted a message. Is there any real-time feedback anybody wants to provide, Kriti, as before we hop off here?
Yeah, and one other sort of parting thought that I would say is the reason we set up this session is hopefully to give you perspective on what's happening out there, and for you to also have the talking points and the narrative as you're talking to your peers and faculty members, etc., to pitch Future Work Academy and why this is important. Because if our educational institutions aren't able to meet these needs, here's another informal way of participating in sessions to learn and to prepare each of you to come into the world of work with and have a leg up actually, and have an advantage coming into the world of work.
Certainly, and it's something that Kriti and I are both very passionate about is making sure that as we build out the curriculum for the symposium part of the conference, is taking that curriculum and then hopefully potentially getting you all credit, college credit for participating and attending those sessions at the conference. So that's definitely another aspect to this that we're working on. Because as she mentioned, this is all information you're going to need as you transition into the future of work. But with that said, I want to thank everybody for staying late because I know we went over staying late. But again, feel free to make sure you connect with Kriti on LinkedIn. I put her LinkedIn page into the chat. But also, if you have any questions or concerns, reach out to us directly via email or shoot us a message in the group me chat. Until then, wish everybody a fantastic evening. And Kriti, again, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Take
Bye,
care.
everyone.
Bye.